Peace to hearts. We are doing a what if episode, man. As you can see, Bernard King, Patrick Ewing, even the guy Uta, whatever how you pronounce his name from What If series, The Watcher. We're gonna be talking about Bernard King and what could have been, man. So without further ado, Dynix Podcast, let's get busy. What's up, guys? We got a football Sunday thing going on, man. I don't really care about football too much. I'm a Giants fan, but I'll watch it when I get a chance, man. I'm probably going to end up checking out the box score and this, that, and the other. Shout out to NYC in the background. Can't really do nothing about that Sunday morning. There's a lot of stuff going on out there in these streets. But, let's talk about this Bernard King stuff, man. Bernard King was one of the greatest basketball players to ever play in his little era, man. Everybody that from that era that remembers playing against him all say the same thing. From Jordan, all these guys, man. He was a handful. He went up against Larry Bird for the MVP, and a lot of people said that he should have gotten the MVP the year that they were fighting for it. But he was a perennial, when he was with the Knicks, he was a MVP candidate almost every year. Put the team on his back, 60-point games. Everybody knows the whole story with him. But what happened when he got hurt? Because the ACL injury at the time, nobody was actually coming back from that injury. Once you had the injury, basically your career was over. They would try to do something to get you to come back, but it just wasn't like the procedure that they were doing before Bernard King's procedure was just like it just wasn't going to work, the way that they did it. But the way that Bernard King surgery went, they did it exactly the way that they do it now. They actually drill a hole into the into your femur bone, whatever, and they'll use a cadaver or maybe like use a piece of somewhere else on your body, and they'll actually stick it through the hole there, and they'll bond it, and then actually replace the whole ACL the way that almost God intended. So it was the first time that he ever did it, for a player like him. And he, of course, it takes an incredible drive and whatever, everything that he was doing, the equipment that they were using, it's just not, the top-notch equipment that we would use today. So it is an incredible journey, man. But, you really have to look at it to see. So, bear with me if anything gets screwed up with this stream, because I keep telling you that my equipment got destroyed when I went to Florida. I was too ambitious when I went out there, and didn't really go to the way I wanted. But let's see if this is gonna work here. Well, that's not exactly the one. It's the other video here. So again, it's live TV. So this is just really Bernard King talking and explaining, where he's coming from. Let me see if this is it here. Nope, same one. And once again, guys, sorry about that. I'm gonna get this correct for you guys. And let's try this one. All right, so this is it here. This is basically Bernard King speaking out of his own.
King was leading the league in scoring in 1985. Then, one night in Kansas City,
King hurt himself as he I never felt any pain as serious as that before. Doctors after the ball game, actually told me I had totally shredded my knee. And I said to myself, okay, fine. If it's over, you can accept that. You've done some things that maybe no other individual has done. But now here's an opportunity to face a challenge and to meet an obstacle head on. And let's fight this battle and see if we can overcome it.
Come on. After surgery, he became a hermit, working countless hours at home. He would not believe those who said he could never return.
Every time I went to work out with a therapist, I said, I'm playing the Boston Celtics, I'm playing the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm facing that team in my basement on that machine for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, he was amazing, man. Bernard King was an amazing individual. You could just see the way that he was working. At that time, it was really unprecedented for guys to be working out to that degree, to get themselves back. You know what I'm saying? Once again, apologize for the little delay trying to get the video right, because they both basically say the same thing, whatever, man. But he was working really hard, so he was able to get himself back together. So anyway, let's just talk about his stats and stuff. I'll pull up his stats through Basketball Reference. Basketball Reference. Here we go here. This is, Bernard King. He was born in 56. He's 64 now. He came out of Fort Hamilton, Brooklyn. So straight up New Yorker, man. Everybody knows about that area of New York. They have their whole little history there. His brother also was a big part of that. But during the next time here, man, let's see if we can highlight this stuff here for you guys. Uh, from here to here, this was his career. So during this time period, he averaged 26 points, 5 rebounds a game, 2 assists, 1 steal. The percentages, 54% from the field. Back then, they didn't shoot threes, so you can't really count that. But 54% from the field, basically. He was a beast. The free throw percentage, 76% is about even for the time period. He was just a beast. This one year in particular, 2 years really, he averaged 26 that one year, and then he finished it off with 32 the year that he got hurt. So that's 29 points a game during that span there. At the time, like there was really nobody better than him outside of Michael Jordan when you're talking about scoring. 32 points a game, still almost 6 rebounds a game, 3 assists, 1 steal, and then he ended up getting hurt. So let's get into this year here. This is the year 1986-87 when he averaged 22 points a game, back down to about 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Basically the same player, a little less scoring. But he only played 4 games that year. He only started 4. So this is like towards the end of the year where he came in like when it's garbage time just to get himself together here. So Basketball Reference actually allows you to check out game splits and stuff like game logs and whatever. So we can go to that season for the game logs and just scroll down here. There's only only 6 games here. But if you take a look at what you're seeing here, his first game back, he only averaged 7 points. He had 3 rebounds, 3 assists. But then this is when it gets crazy. He averaged 20 points in the next game. Those weren't starts, actually. Then he finally started for like his last 4 games of that season. He averaged, he scored 19, 30, 29, and 31. So the last 3 games of his Knicks career, Bernard King actually averaged 30 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. 53% from the field. Basically, he was back. You know what I'm saying? So that begs the question, right? How come the Knicks didn't keep him? Now, did Patrick Ewing and Bernard King ever play together? No, they did not. Bernard King said himself that they actually practiced together. So practicing is one thing. It's totally different. When we're talking about playing a game, but they actually practiced together. I think he said maybe like once or twice. But never actually in the game because Ewing was also hurt out their entire year. So let's talk about these games, man. This first game that he scored 30 points. Of course they lost because that's a whole nother story. The Knicks were basically a lottery team. I think they had 24 wins that year, if I'm not mistaken. I can't really see it right at the moment, but I believe they had 24 wins that year. So they were like a perennial lottery team. So there was nothing stopping the Knicks from keeping him, like because they didn't get any assets for him. They didn't get anything really of significance for him. He just went to Washington. Washington signed him, and he went on to have a career there. We'll talk about that in a second too. But this is what is alarming to me: the 30 points, 29 points, and 31 points 3 games back to back. In this last game, I'll look at this last game just not to keep this drawn out here, but this last game they got beat by the Cavs. The Cavs were actually a good team. They had a lot of good young players. But, well now I'm trying to big them up, but they was only 31 and 51 themselves. So the Knicks were actually 24 and 58. So check out this box score. This box score is what's interesting to me. He played 45 minutes. He played 45 minutes in a meaningless game, a game that they weren't making the playoffs. There was nothing to play for, but he still was able to play 45 minutes. That's more than anybody else on the team at that time. So if this guy can score 40, could give you 45 minutes and play and score 31 points and still do everything that he was able to do before the injury, why didn't the Knicks keep him? Like another person here to look at is Gerald Wilkins. Gerald Wilkins was basically like a second-year player or a third-year player. Second-year player because they were drafted the same year, I believe, him and Ewing. But 30 points himself. So we're talking about a young core now, coming up through the ranks because Mark Jackson was gonna show up to the league soon. Gerald Wilkins is already on the team, and then Ewing was coming in there. So you mean to tell me that with Gerald Wilkins able to score 30 points in a game for you, Bernard King comes back from injury and he's able to give you 3 straight games, 30 points, 45 minutes one game, and you didn't have enough space in your roster, or not enough foresight within your team to say, let's just give Bernard King a chance, especially for the fact that he put the team on his back all those years. So there's something missing there. Like I was trying to do a Google search for articles for the time period, but there wasn't really anything that I could really find that was really like solid. But for older heads, if you remember, like if you remember what they were saying, that would be great for you to just give me the knowledge. Put it in the comments. If you're watching this, and just give the insight as to what was the backstory in that offseason, and what's the reason why the Knicks didn't keep him. Because I'm looking at it now, there is no reason right now on this roster here. They still have Bernard King. Excuse me, they still had Bill Cartwright. So they actually traded Bill Cartwright for Oakley. So what if they was to make these moves? Trade for Oakley, and they drafted Mark Jackson. Now you're talking about Ewing, Mark Jackson, Bernard King, Gerald Wilkins, and Charles Oakley all on the same team. So you mean to tell me that team couldn't have done something? So that, it's really crying over spilled milk. But there really needs a question needs to be answered as to why Bernard King wasn't retained for the Knicks. Some of these other games too, I kind of want to check out. So let's do a previous game and see if they do that for me. So he actually played against the Bullets. The Bullets, they actually lost that game too. Bullets had Moses Malone, who was really good. Still, Jeff Malone, he was good also. Decent. Not really so much competition at the forward positions for Bernard, but he still got 29 points in that game, man. Bill Cartwright had a decent game. Gerald Wilkins also had 22 that game. It's amazing. It kind of breaks my heart, man. Let's look at the other 30-point game that he had. The first 30-point game since in his comeback. He had 30 points. Gerald Wilkins again 23. So maybe they had some chemistry. That's something to think about too. Maybe they had a little bit of chemistry with Gerald Wilkins, scoring 23. Basically averaging like 23 points for like the last few games, the last 3 games, while Bernard King was averaging 30. So that there might have been some kind of chemistry there. Maybe the guys enjoy playing with each other. They actually played against Detroit Pistons. They were 51-29. Joe Dumars had 20. Rick Mahorn had 14. Bill Laimbeer had 27. Isaiah Thomas was on a downside of his career. No, excuse me. This is actually like their championship era, actually. You know what I'm saying? So who knows? Maybe if the Knicks had put that team together, maybe we would have stopped their run. Maybe we would have stopped Detroit's run for the championship. They had Adrian Dantley still on the team. So this is the year before that they made the trade for Mark Aguirre that started that whole thing for them. But it just kind of makes me sad a little bit how that goes. Let's check out the Knicks the following season. What did the Knicks do after they got rid of Bernard King? So if I could do that here, this is Bernard King's last year. Let's do the next page here. This is the 87-88 season. Once again, bear with me because this is live stuff. This is not ESPN. So if you're looking for ESPN, like I said before, go to ESPN. This is just a guy on YouTube putting stuff together for you guys. So they did draft Mark Jackson. They had Gerald Wilkins. Ewing came back. Ewing averaged 20 and 8. Ewing was just becoming that offensive player. They still had Kenny Walker. They ended up getting Sidney Green on the team who's kind of like getting old up in his career. He wasn't really that good of a player. They were trying to find. They got Johnny Newman. They were trying to find that young guy to get into the mix to add to that thing. They didn't give Johnny Newman a chance neither. So that's like another podcast for another day. But if they didn't do that, maybe Bernard King would have been right in that slot. And then like I said, Mark Jackson, Gerald Wilkins, Patrick Ewing, Bernard King, and they still had Cartwright according to this here. So they traded for Cartwright, I believe, in the next season. Let's check out the next season. If it's 89, or maybe I forgot when exactly they traded for Oakley. So here goes the 89 season. This is basically 2 years after they traded. They got rid of Bernard King. So you're talking about Ewing was 22 points a game. He was not quite peak Ewing yet, with the offensive talent. Mark Jackson was still in his bag, 16 and 8. Charles Oakley was on the team now. You got a double-double machine. Gerald Wilkins, still young, 25 years old, giving you 14 points a game. And here goes Johnny Newman, what Johnny Newman would have did. So, I don't know the story with Johnny Newman, how they went about getting him. But stick Bernard King and Johnny Newman's spot, right? So now after we did that, let's go back to Bernard King. He's actually typing Bernard King here. Just let me see, Bernard King, and check out the next 2 seasons after the Knicks got rid of him. So this is the last season with the Knicks here. So add 2 seasons. Add 2 seasons. That's 1, 2. That's this year here. He was back up to averaging 20 points a game. He was averaging 20, 4 and 3. So he was back to averaging 20 points a game. During that time with the Wizards, he actually made it back to the All-Star team and averaged 28 points a game. So during that next 3-year span, he was back to averaging 23, 4, and 4 basically. So he did get up to that 20-point a game year in the year of 1990 and 1991. So let's go back to the Knicks here, and let's just click the next couple years. The Knicks were 52 and 30 with the bomb squad Knicks here. That's with Johnny Newman averaging 16. So the Knicks were on their way there. Patrick Ewing and Mark Jackson and stuff. Let's go to this next year. The next year. Once again, just bear with me because this is live stuff. 45 and 37. Ewing was this is prime Ewing now. Ewing all of a sudden, got the jump shot going now. He's averaging 20 points a game. The offense is high octane. Like I said, Bernard King was giving you 20 points a game at this time. Add that to Oakley, 14 and 11. Gerald Wilkins still giving you 14, 4. Mark Jackson production went down a little bit. Some of these other guys here, you're talking about Kiki Vanderweight and Ross Strickland and all this other stuff. Maybe those variables would have changed, but I'm just talking about the core top 5 there. That's what it is there. So added into this year where Bernard King actually averaged the 28 points a game. So I believe it was this season, 1990, 1991. So Ewing is prime Ewing now, 26 points a game, 11 rebounds. All the other things that he does. Oakley, double machine at this point. Like I said, you could X out Kiki Vanderweight because we wouldn't have never made a deal to get Kiki Vanderweight to begin with. We would have just kept Bernard King. So Bernard King gave you 28 points a game that year too. Gerald Wilkins, still giving you basically 14, 13.8. They traded for, like I said, Maurice Cheeks and all this. Maybe we wouldn't have done those trades. Maybe we wouldn't have drafted Ross Strickland and all that stuff. It's just like a time machine type of thing. But Mark Jackson is still on the roster. He was averaging 8 and 6. Maybe he's still the starting point guard for the Knicks, along with the guys that I mentioned before. So this year the Knicks were actually 39 and 44 under Stu Jackson. So Stu Jackson was he was like a statue kind of coach, whatever. He coached hard, but he was kind of like over his head a little bit. Ernie Grunfeld was still the general manager. Dave Checketts was there as the team president. So, during this 1990-1991 season, coaching aside, I think this is the year that maybe the Knicks could have tried to do something. So I'm just going to look at what was going on in the NBA at that time. So let's see if we can get the NBA for that year. Let me see, NBA playoffs. The Knicks actually made the playoffs that year, so maybe the Knicks would have got a higher seed because they made the playoffs at 39 and 43. So let's check out the 1990-91 playoffs. It's the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks played against Chicago. We got swept 3-0. So maybe the Knicks don't play Chicago. Maybe we play Boston. Maybe we play Detroit. Detroit beat Atlanta 3-2. Celtics and Indiana 3-2. So maybe the Knicks would have been in that little mix. Philadelphia also swept the Bucks. So maybe we would have been in that mix. Maybe we would have played Boston or Detroit, say. Because add a couple wins maybe we would have played those two guys. So in the next round, the Detroit Pistons beat the Celtics. Chicago beat Philadelphia. What's the other team? You know what I'm saying? That's maybe the Knicks could have been in that mix. I guess we could look at the series really quick. Let's look at the Detroit Pistons and Boston Celtics. That just jumps out at me. So looking at that series, the basic stats, Dumars 23, Mark Aguirre 17. I don't see Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas probably was hurt that year because he only averaged 8 points. So maybe he was going down. His career was going down. So they were primed to be taken advantage of. He's talking about Mark Aguirre, who was like 31 years old. So Bernard King would have had a good chance to take him out. Let's look at the Boston Celtics. Uh, Reggie Lewis was there on the team. Kevin McHale was 33 years old. So the Knicks were primed to take over these different teams, man. Larry Bird wasn't Larry Bird anymore. Only 13 points a game. Robert Parrish is old as hell. So I could see Ewing destroying him. I could see Bernard King destroying whoever was against him. Maybe Reggie Lewis. Reggie Lewis is in his prime. Rest in peace to him. Kevin McHale, like I said, was older. So Charles Oakley would have been going against him. So different matchups. So maybe the Knicks would have done well against that team. So let's look at the team that advanced ahead of them there into basically. Let's just go into the finals. Chicago Bulls made it to the finals. That was the year that Jordan won his first championship. So would the Knicks have won the championship that year? With Jordan's first year, the way things were going that year, I feel like Michael Jordan was driven, to win. The Lakers also too. The Lakers were diminished. It was only Magic Johnson, James Worthy that got hurt in the playoffs. They had to start. What's the guy's name? They had to start. Divac. Because their starting centers and stuff got hurt. So it's interesting, man. Let's look at that series for the finals. Michael Jordan, of course, 31 points a game. Scottie Pippen had 20. Horace had, he was that double guy. He had 14 and 7. John Paxson was there, 3 points shy. Bill Cartwright was there. You can't really beat Michael Jordan. At the time, Michael Jordan hasn't won anything at that point. So maybe, I'm looking at Magic now. Magic had 18. He was still doing this thing. Vlade actually averaged 18 because there was nobody else there. This is a young Vlade, 22 points a game. Sam Perkins, 16. James Worthy, he actually played 4 games. He averaged 19 points. Okay, but he didn't complete the series. He got hurt one of the games and he wasn't able to complete. But I mean, look at the rest of their roster. The roster is not necessarily all that good. Byron Scott wasn't Byron Scott anymore. AC Green wasn't AC Green anymore. So if this was the year the Knicks could win a championship, let's say if Jordan didn't make it, or maybe Jordan was driven and the Knicks played Jordan, that Jordan team, just look at what they did in the finals. Of course, we can't guard Michael Jordan, but we did have Gerald Wilkins. Who knows who else we would have gotten to the team if we would have stuck around. But Bernard King would have been against Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen could play defense, so maybe he would have locked Bernard King down. It would have been tough to see. Charles Oakley and Horace Grant is a wash. You talk about Mark Jackson and Paxson, that's a wash as well. The X factor here is Ewing. Ewing would have destroyed Bill Cartwright at this time, because this was like peak offensive Patrick Ewing. So it's interesting to talk about this stuff, man. But maybe we would have made it to the finals with that team. But the beginning of Jordan's era, I'm not sure if the Knicks would have been able to win that year. I'm talking about the year that Bernard King was able to average that 28 points a game thing. Let's see the 1990 finals. Since we're looking, the 1990 finals, that was Detroit against Portland. Isaiah Thomas was in his bag at the time, man. So he averaged 20 points a game that year. Joe Dumars had 20. James Edwards had 14. Bill Laimbeer, 13. Vinnie Johnson, 12. This is peak Detroit Pistons. But I'm looking at that roster. Like I said, Gerald Wilkins would have been guarding Joe Dumars. Mark Jackson was in his bag. Maybe he would have gave Isaiah Thomas a run. Both teams played defense. Bill Laimbeer would have been against Oakley. They didn't really have Mark Aguirre. But shout out to Dennis Rodman, because Dennis Rodman was basically starting small forward at the time. So he would have been guarding Bernard King. So that's another year that, it's just fun to talk about. Maybe the Knicks could have won a championship if Bernard King would have been healthy. But if you look at the teams, we're talking about the beginning of the Jordan era and the second championship with Detroit. The 88 finals was also Detroit as well. They played against the Lakers, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they played against the Lakers. They swept the Lakers. Like I said, this is Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas peak right here with Vinnie Johnson as well. So their backcourt would have been crazy. Our front court, like I said, would have been good with Bernard King and stuff. But you're talking about, Dennis Rodman playing small forward, basically getting 10 rebounds a game. Mark Aguirre could still score. So it would have been tough. The defense would have been, we would have been banging each other. And I think Detroit probably would have made it up to the finals that year as well, just for the simple fact that was this peak bad boy era stuff. The Lakers themselves, James Worthy was in his prime there. 25 points a game. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was at the end of his career. You know, what else here? Yeah, man. It would have been interesting. It would have been a nice, interesting run. I see Magic Johnson didn't play in the finals day. Oh, yes, he did. He played on 3 minutes, but as you can see here, 25 minutes a game, 11 points, 8 assists. I don't know the history. Maybe he was hurt. But the Western Conference, it might have been a shot to beat them, but to come out the East was the best. It was Detroit and it was Chicago. So during that time where if Ewing and Bernard King were playing on the same team, maybe they wouldn't have made. Maybe they would have made it to the finals. Maybe Eastern Conference Finals. Like I said, that third year, but they would have faced Jordan in the Eastern Conference Finals. So if they couldn't get past Jordan, it's just fun to talk about, man. But this is all I got for you today. Just wanted to run this down. This whole Bernard King era. What if? What would happen if we kept Bernard King? Like I said, it still hurts to think about it, but it is what it is, man. So just without further ado, let me just say goodbye to everybody. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat here. Sorry for the little delay, the little lag and stuff like that. Because like I said, this is all I'm clicking buttons here, hoping stuff works. I'm working on my internet, and just the system and stuff like that. But it's just interesting. It's interesting conversation. But I see you guys on the next one. Before we get out of here, before I forget here, let me just shout out to Bars and Shots. I'm actually going to go on to the Bars and Shots show at 3:00. So we're going to talk about whatever these guys want to talk about. I'm very excited and actually nervous to get on the show because I really like their show. I like what they do there. So if you guys can go to Bars and Shots, look it up on YouTube, and you'll be able to follow us there. So anyway, shout out to everybody that's in the chat once again, and I see you guys on the next one. Peace.